Hey, grande.
Hey,
Hey,
figured it out.
so good to see you, my friend.
You too, man.
Ciao,
Oh, okay,
hi.
okay. Blake, the guy who's joining our chat tonight is Luca. Is a
Ciao,
close friend of mine
hi.
Yeah,
and colleague. Is
Nice to meet you.
is also an anthropologist.
too. Okay, cool.
Okay. Hi, everybody, guys. I would like to welcome Blake, friend and colleague, and for me also someone to look at when I started my career, and very big inspiration for my work. So thank you to find the time to have this chat with us and feel as to be in my living room and having a drink together and chatting about what we are passionate for. And I apologize with everybody for my English. I'm not English mother language. I'll try to speak as clear as possible. And I also would like to, in case of Luca will not be able to to make his questions, he will maybe I will help him to translate them in English. Nomads and Blake is the same thing for me. I mean, because I first knew Nomads and I first knew Nomads and then Blake and Chris and other people. And Blake is one of the pioneer of body piercing in the industry. He started his career in '90, and he developed so many different kind of things, starting from piercing techniques to ancient jewelry, body piercing jewelry collection. And then in a bit, he's going to talk about all these things. Unfortunately, we will only have 1 hour, and it's not going to be enough. But Blake, don't be worried, because I'm pretty sure that during the winter and autumn, we will have another appointment in case you will be fine with this to get back to us. Thank you so much. And please, I would like to start with the first question. I'm very curious I ask this question to everybody, because for me, since all the piercers, starting from the past till these days, are, we all have different kind of background. I would like to know where you come from, if you can tell us something about your family. I know your mother had a very big influence on your life, on your, body piercing career. Please.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me on here, Bruno. It's a big honor. I really look at your work as a very fantastic example of, somebody with really great skills. And, it's a big honor to be asked by you, somebody of your professional stature, to be on here. So thank you for the invite. And it's nice to meet your colleague here. I hope everybody can hear me okay. And I will speak slowly, no American slang if I can avoid it. So,
Okay, I don't know. I lost you for a bit. Could
um,
everybody hear him?
everybody okay?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So my grandmother was a doctor, and she traveled quite a bit in the 50s and the 60s, and she went into a lot of very remote tribal areas where she was the first Anglo-Saxon woman they had ever seen. And she did a program that now they call Doctors Without Borders. And she used to go into villages and do dental reconstruction on children that maybe got kicked in the mouth by a donkey and had their teeth broken. And so she did the Doctors Without Borders before it was called that, before I was born, if that's possible. And when I was little, she used to show me pictures of tribal people and, big big earplugs and things that I just grew up with. And so, and of course, National Geographic, and I was very inspired. And so there was a medical background from her, and she wanted me to be a dentist, an orthodontist. But the influence from her travels was already too great. And so that is how I ended up with, you know, big holes in my ears, is grandma in a lot of ways.
Okay, great. I can imagine that from her travels, she brought to you pictures and maybe some local jewelry.
She did. The first piece of jewelry I ever got that was an antique was from my grandma, and they were earrings from Tibet, men's earrings for stretched holes with silver and turquoise. And it was very inspirational to me, you know, because I wanted some cultural validation for what I was doing. And I have been off Instagram for 1 year, and so got back on here to do this with you. And I noticed your post about Otzi. And, you know, since I'm half Italian, when I first learned about Otzi, I felt a lot of cultural validation for being pierced and tattooed Italian, even in America, that the origins of this kind of modification date back to the Bronze Age, and that's 5,500 years, you know, with an Italian with stretched ears and 70 tattoos. I think that is extremely culturally significant.
Yeah, that's amazing that, you know, same kind of body modification or way to communicate to everybody else were common in different culture, so far away from each other, and in so long time ago. That's amazing. And someone asked how Nomad's name end up, but you will answer to this question a little bit later, because there is a lot to do about Nomad's group and Nomads, you know, the studio, and also all the innovation you guys brought into the industry back on those days, you know. So just to know, did you start to collect ancient jewelry because of your mother stimulate your curiosity, or are you already been interested in this, and I don't know, you already start to collect this kind of items or precious?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The first thing that I ever bought that was an antique was in 1994. I bought a pair of antique Dayak ear weights, and they were $500, and I had my own shop, and I realized that I had the opportunity to collect something that I could, you know, wear in my ears. And I was always struck by the significance of being able to wear an antique that perhaps somebody had not worn in a very long time. And so when Nomad opened, that is really when I began collecting seriously over the last almost 30 years now. So that's how it started.
Okay. And so you started professional in wait a second, Luca, did you have any question for him right now, or?
Sì, sì, volevo chiedere quali sono stati, a parte appunto quello che ha raccontato, qualcosa ho capito, le tue domande le ho comprese abbastanza bene, quello che ha raccontato Blake, alcune cose le ho comprese, alcune cose mi sono sfuggite. Volevo chiedere punti di riferimento durante l'inizio della sua carriera che lo hanno influenzato, a parte appunto la famiglia o quello di cui ci ha parlato, non solo Piercer, sia Piercer che altri personaggi, altri aspetti culturali che l'hanno influenzato, l'hanno portato a questa sua scelta, appunto.
Okay, so Blake, Luca asked if beside your grandmother, if there are any other people who influenced you at the beginning of your career, So we're talking about, you know, 80s and beginning of 90s. And in case there are, who and in which way they influenced you?
Well, is the question influence like about my professional career or like personally?
Both. It's interesting to know both sides of this, because for people like us, the piercing is not just a job, is our daily life, is our life, is our passion, is our heart. You understand what I mean? So it's in both sides is very interesting to me.
Okay, this is true. To answer that, you know, after my grandmother's influence, I went to meet Fakir in San Francisco right after the earthquake, and it was 32 years ago, and I had a copy of the research book, like a lot of guys from my generation, and it seems like they're all retired now, except for me, which feels a little strange. But, you know, when I went to meet Fakir, I had just gotten a job at Body Manipulations in San Francisco, and it was Fakir that told me that I would be a much better fit working there than where he was at. So I went to follow my path that way, but he was influential in the sense that he helped me popularize stretched ears in America because of his books and magazines. And Fakir and I did many television shows over the decades, but he was very supportive. If any of the viewers have ever seen his books or Body Play, you know, those publications date back into the 80s, and they were very unique, especially because he was the photographer as well as the journalist, but they provided a template for a lot of young piercers 30 years ago to look at, and Fakir was very supportive of what I was doing before Nomad, actually, and he put me in his books so that I could feel a little bit of validation. You know, 32 years ago, having 2-inch ears was really crazy, and you know, I look at how much time has gone by, and I know there's a lot of kids that weren't even born when Nomad opened, and they have 4-inch ears, and it's always very interesting to me. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions. I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah, there are some questions, but I would like to put this question in line to have a you know a solid line of conversation. And so Luca, did he answer to your questions? And the main influence, il maggiore influenza, la persona che maggiormente lo ha influenzato e l'ha seguito e l'ha supportato, Fakir Muzaffar. Yeah, I also have to say that also Fakir was, unfortunately, I keep talking in the present tense when I'm speaking about him, because for me he's still, you know, he's still here in the sermon here, and I can never forget him, never. But yes, he influenced since the beginning, when even when he was so far away, when I don't speak a good English even now, but back on those days when internet wasn't there, was way more difficult to me to, you know, to get information, as everybody who started his career at the beginning of the 90s, at the end of 80s, no? So as you said, I also have research book, of course, because at the beginning was the Bible, no? As soon as research book was body and soul book was available, I mean, I bought it. I paid someone to translate the you know, the pages for me. And for me it was crazy, you know, because at that time it was nearly impossible to get information. Can you imagine, was probably difficult for you guys that are English speakers And can you imagine for us the reality for the who started back on those days in Europe with so many different kind of languages and no way to, or maybe very difficult to communicate, interact to each other. And did you work with the fakir in some project in the past, beside be friends and colleague?
You know, the first things that I did with Fakir were visiting him at his house and doing photo shoots in his backyard.
Yeah.
And he invited me over in the fall of 1990, and he said, okay, Blake, take off your clothes, you'll be closer to God. And so we got naked in the backyard, and he took a lot of photos that became famous over the decades. And then we did some suspensions together.
Nice.
About 30 years ago, 32 years ago. There were a few performances in San Francisco. One was called Live Skin, and it was like the tattoo and pierced community coming together to hang from hooks. And this was also done with my old boss and friend Vaughn, who owned Body Manipulations, and we all got together and, you know, hung from hooks back in the day.
Okay, very, very interesting. And about the suspension, you already had a very nice chat with Beto during the last, probably last year. And someone is asking if you ever worked in Italy, and or in case you didn't done it yet, if you are available to maybe in case in the future organize something here in Italy, and you will be available for it.
As long as you host.
What's up? I lost you. Wait a second. Could you hear me? Could you guys hear me? Okay, okay, cool. Say again your answer, please, Blake.
My answer is if you host me at your shop, I will come be your guest artist.
Yeah, I have to try to figure out something to have you here, and not just to do piercing, also to, you know, to spread information and to share maybe in some tribal event will be nice. And about tribal, I would like to, but before talk about tribal, why did you move to San Francisco? And also, and after a little bit later, we will talk about the born of Nomad's word, studio, and also philosophy, body piercing philosophy. Why did you move there?
Well, San Francisco was the only place in America that there was a piercing scene. And I say scene, but it was really just like 10 people. That was the entire piercing community was there. Body Manipulations was the first shop in San Francisco before anybody else. And they are now the oldest shop in the United States. And it's changed hands. Vaughn does not own it anymore. Changed hands about 18 or 20 years ago, but the name continues and they're still in San Francisco. I moved there because I wanted to meet Fakir and because I wanted to be a piercer. And I was a musician at the time, and I gave up a career in music, you know, whatever that could have been, I don't know, but I wanted to follow what was in my heart, which was to be a body artist. And you know, the term piercer did not exist. Nobody called themselves a piercer 30 years ago. I don't know when that came around, but it's been going on for a while, and we were just guys that did piercing. Nobody had the term piercer, and so I moved there to, you know, get a job and have the opportunity to work.
So to start your career. So sometimes happen that, you know, the people, because I meet a lot of piercer all around Europe, mainly here in Italy, because I live in Italy, but a lot of people say, you know, I would like to become a piercer, I'm doing piercing since a while, but you know, I'm not doing much or enough to survive and such like this. I mean, my opinion, as I did it back in those days, I started by myself as a self-talk. But as soon as I realized that how important was, you know, to have a solid base on, you know, safety, hygiene, and all these kind of things, I start to understand that. I mean, I understand that, you know, the only way to learn properly was to travel, as you did, as I did, as many other people did. What do you suggest to contemporary body piercer who, you know, maybe they complain about their situation, but you know, they know, because nowadays they are the chance to if you travel, to move and work with somebody, work for somebody else, and learn from somebody else that can improve your skills and your professionality and also your ethic. What would you suggest to these people?
Well, that's a big question, Bruno. I mean, I think anything that you're going to do right begins with a legitimate apprenticeship. And I don't think the world operates that way anymore. I think that's an old school value. You know, I wanted to learn from somebody that was already working professionally. And for me, that person was Vaughn. And he was the first piercer that I saw work that impressed me. And, you know, in retrospect, I'm a little bit hard to impress as far as piercing skills. And I watched him work and I thought, you know, God damn, this guy is really good. And, you know, he pierced me twice 32 years ago. And it took me to be, you know, to have the trust in somebody. And so that's how I started, with a, you know, unofficial apprenticeship. And I was just hired, you know, like I had only done genital and septum piercings. I had never pierced a belly button when I started working. And then I was piercing 50 belly buttons every day. And I don't think it's like that anymore, because cultural revolutions are only significant when they're happening, when the wave is cresting. And what happens with anything is it becomes anything cool and different, even if it's the old thing coming back, it becomes homogenized. And you know, we live in a technology-driven culture now, and I think so many young piercers, you know, out there probably don't know who I am or who Fakir is or who you are, and that's because they're used to clicking on the fucking telephone. And when it was all magazines and word of mouth, you know, back in the day. There was no websites, you know. When Nomad got its website in 1994, it was like unheard of, and nobody used the internet really.
No.
So people go about it very differently. Yes, sir.
I can tell you that I personally started. I had my first email in 2000. It was an Hotmail. I mean, here, I mean, for people like me, was, you know, something we started to use internet way after you guys, you know, and I jumped straight into BMZine. That, you know, was a very huge support for us. By the way, someone asked which was your first piercing, the first piercing you did.
The first of anything, I got my ear pierced in 1984 when I...
No, the one you performed.
Oh, the first one I did? They were on myself. My first piercings on myself were my ear. You know, I got my ear pierced in 1984 when I got out of the military, and I pierced the other side in about 1986. And then I did genital piercings on myself, and I pierced my own septum.
Okay.
I pierced those holes in my ears too. Those were all done by me.
Which one? Are you talking about the 8mm, the 8mm hole in the...
all this stuff.
Alex?
These were pierced with a lemon thorn because there was no such thing as a 4-gauge needle.
Ah, wow. Wow. Ok, Luca has a question, please.
Sì, mi volevo ricollegare al discorso di Fakir, no? Ovviamente è chiaro che è stato diciamo un suo maestro, un punto di riferimento forte per la sua carriera, per la sua crescita personale all'interno della scena del body piercing e non solo, insomma. Volevo chiedergli, proprio perché comunque è stato un personaggio forte, importante, come precursore, ma e non solo, anche a livello concettuale e filosofico, parlo di Fakir Musafar,
Ok.
e quindi è stato anche importante per la sua carriera appunto personale. Partendo dal tre concetti fondamentali di Fakir, che sono body first, body play e modern primitives, vorrei sapere da lui se e soprattutto come è possibile riattualizzare, visto che comunque da quando Fakir Musafar ha praticamente esposto questo concetto di moderni primitivi, se è possibile riattualizzare attualmente nella nostra contemporaneità il concetto di modern primitive, e sempre se secondo lui vada ricontestualizzato o se è ancora diciamo valido così come era stato concepito da Fakir Musafar. E inoltre volevo chiedergli, sempre rispetto a questa appunto ritualità corporea di cui Fakir si fa promotore, come vive, quanta importanza dà questa ritualità corporea al mondo, alla nostra contemporaneità, soprattutto rispetto a quello che sono i processi di mercificazione corporea attuali.
Ok, Luca, hold
Non
on,
è
aspetta.
facile.
No, non è facile. Blake, I mean, it's something very, very interesting for me, but I try to shrink it down, you know, to make it easier. I mean, Fakir in you and in me and in many other people has a huge influence. And as you and your crew started the first tribal piercing studio in the industry back in 1993, if I remember well, and he says, and you guys develop and give new input about you know, a different kind of perspective about body piercing back on those days. The question is, do you think, in your opinion, do you think that that there still have a need to keep the tribal view of the body piercing on these days, and if you think that we still should keep this tribal approach on these days, how we can improve it and make it more, you know, make the people more sensible about this, more, you know, intrigued by this side of body piercing.
Anche, scusa se ti interrompo, anche quella spiritualità che Fakir cercava di trasmettere attraverso.
Okay. And he also said, you know, tribal, you know, this tribal side also means not just the practical side of the action, but also the spiritual side of the action. You understand what I mean? I mean, Luca says, nowadays, you know, body piercing is mainly on, you know, commercial stuff, you know, is mainly pushed by, you know, trends and influencer and all these kind of things, all these kind of people. And that actually, in one side, in my own opinion, is nothing wrong with this, because it wasn't about to, because of this, like, you know, Naomi Campbell and all these kind of people back in the 90s, body piercing probably didn't become this popular as it is at these days, you know. But nowadays probably too much commercial in some ways. What do you think about this? I mean, to go back to the question, the tribal side of the work of the body piercing, the action, and also the emotional and spiritual side of the action. Do you think that there is still the need of this these days?
That's a very big question, Luca and Bruno. Thank you for the condensed translation. You know, for myself, and this is just speaking for myself, the entire premise of Nomad was to reconnect people to something that is more ancient than contemporary culture. And I think without an awareness of the cultural and, you know, tribal is almost an overused words now, but if you talk about indigenous societies all around the world who stretch their earlobes and pierce their septums, you know, in every area of the globe, areas that were not connected to each other and areas that were separated by thousands of years of history, herstory, as my mother would say.
Wait. Blake, sorry, wait, because I don't know if the other people lost your voice.
That's sorry, that's because I don't know how to mute my fucking phone. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So, you know, I think just to restate that, the only reason that I'm a piercer is to represent indigenous aesthetic, you know, knowing that there are Italians 5,500 years ago who also had tattoos and stretched ears. And I think if people were to be more mindful of the shared similarities between ancient cultures, we might have less bullshit in the world today. And I think when you are a piercer, I think it's important for myself anyways to, you know, embody the cultures that we all found influence from. And now so many, well, not now, but for the last 40, 50 years, so many indigenous cultures have been, you know, Christianized, for lack of a better word, or, you know, rainforests have been cut down, you know, in the name of progress. And we're losing those cultural connections to ancient humanity that is part of the mythology of all people. And when we lose a tribe or an aesthetic or, you know, a philosophy, this is something Joseph Campbell wrote about a lot. We are losing an integral part of the human mythos. And it's very important to be mindful of that when you pick up a piercing needle. And like Luca was saying, I don't think that people are really mindful of that anymore. It's commercialized and, you know, it's trendy fashion statement. Nobody gives a shit about the cultural origins anymore. But I think if a few of us, you know, carry the tribal torch, then at least it will engender some awareness about the practice of body modification around the world for, you know, a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not so much into tribal side, but I'm very into, you know, the exchange of, you know, emotions and try to make a, you know, I don't want to say modern ritual, but it's a kind of ritual for me each time, because in my own opinion, there is nothing more intimate than through pierce somebody, that, you know, penetrate somebody. You understand what I mean? Someone. And in my own opinion, I mean, this, first of all, you know, let me feel very, very responsible on what I'm doing, you know, technical and ethically talking. But in the other hand, everybody, I mean, every time, even if it's a simple lobe, is, I mean, it's something that can be, or at least I try to let the customer feel like, to find, you know, to make a new experience for a new time in a new way your body. Understand what I mean? I mean, I don't want to say I'm not so deep into an ancient ritual. I'm more, in my own opinion, I'm more into, you know, contemporary ritual that everybody of us can build his own contemporary ritual. You know, figuring those out from, you know, the personal experience we have in our background and you know, in our culture, and of course there is a lot of commercial piercing nowadays, but in my own opinion, I mean, I'm probably you guys probably have the same experience. Someone get into the shop and to get some piercing done, and after you speak with these people and you let them see another side of this experience. Some of these, I don't want to say everybody because it's impossible. Everyone has different mind, you know. But some of these people understand the importance of what they are getting. You understand what I mean? And in my own opinion, nowadays, since a lot of the religion meaning got lost, a lot of the politic and philosophy meaning got lost, I think and I feel that there are a lot of people who need, you know, to find his own personal ritual.
Yeah, this let me speak to that because you're hitting the nail on the head. It's I just see a comment that somebody wrote that people needs ritual to find themselves again, and this is what you're talking about contemporary rituals. You know, at least to be mindful of that and what is missing in our culture today. You know, all around the world is the lack of rites of passage. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
and that is, you know, even if we don't have any connection to the tribal thing, to be mindful of the spiritual aspect of a piercing is to be, you know, providing more than the technical service, but you're, you know, helping a person, you know, maybe I pierce a lot of children, you know, I do ears on, I had a baby come to me from Papua New Guinea once to have
Wow.
the ears pierced, and that's a really long fucking way to bring your kid for earrings. I did that work for free, I should tell you. I have a picture of this mother and her baby on the wall, but it's about what you're saying and what this person posted about creating contemporary rituals. That is the kind of thing that is missing from our society that we need to reconnect to in order to sustain humanity spiritually. And by providing that context in a piercing studio, you're giving that person the opportunity to create for themselves their own rite of passage, even if it's their belly button on their 18th birthday. And that is, it may seem, you know, trite and superfluous, but it's also modern people really wanting to reconnect to something that is outside of their own cultural experience. And that is where the real spiritual value of body modification is found, in terms of helping people ritualize those unspoken instincts. And maybe that first ear piercing is that rite of passage because their parents didn't pierce their ears as babies, which has been done in every culture for as long as humanity has existed. And now only rare piercers, including myself, will pierce, you know, children when they're younger, but that is the rite of passage that is missing from our world. And it can be a baby's ears, or it can be the belly button on the 18th birthday. But to be a facilitator of that, that transformation is really a sacred trust for a piercer to be entrusted with that. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, shitty work out there, and anybody who's professional has to fix crappy piercings all the time. You know, people that should have done their research and looked for somebody more qualified. But that's what happens when things become homogenized and saturated. You know, when I started piercing, there was only 2 other piercing shops in the United States, and people used to come for 1,000 miles to get their belly button pierced. And now you can go to any, you know, podunk little town in America and find 5 piercing shops.
Yeah, very. I mean, I completely agree with you, and it's exactly what I try to do every day in the shop while I'm working. Of course, it's not possible to go deep with everybody because unfortunately, the time we have, we can spend with the customer every day. I mean, is limited, but at the same time, it's something very important we do, and probably is even more important because the experience normally is so short that I mean, we have to try to find the right way to speak, the right words, the right, you know, way to move, to try to transmit all this to the customer. And this is why, in my own opinion, what we do is even more important. When I mean, if you work in a commercial place, you don't care. You look at the watch every 5 minutes, and you don't see the time to go back home. In my shop is different. Luckily, even after 28 years, I'm doing this professionally. Luckily, I don't see. I mean, I'm not at that point that I have to look at the watch every 5 minutes to say, "Oh, I'm sick of this." I still feel patient. I try to extend this patience and transmit this patience to our customer. And my own opinion is, you know, is the best part of my job. You understand what I mean? When you see and you notice that something changed in your customer just before they leave, it's something, in my opinion, very, very, very nice. Now, I mean, I would like you to speak a little bit about Nomads, where the name come from, and your shop was the first tribal shop in the industry, and I would like you to describe a little bit your shop, you know, with exotic animals and plants and things like this. Please describe, because it's something that for someone that looks, you know, weird or maybe strange, but back on those days it was something very, in my own opinion, very, you know, forward.
Yeah, thank you. Forward and yet looking backward at the same time, and that's an interesting point. You know, nomad means traveler, and that just is a reference to the nomadic tribes that have been on this planet for a very long time. And you know, Nomad opened a piercing studio in Melbourne, Australia in 1995, and it seemed like the perfect place to go. We were the first piercing shop to be international, and that was a really difficult achievement, you know, without the internet, and just to go and find another country and you know, plant the seed, so to speak. And you know, this is the motherland of Aboriginal culture that has their own great piercing history. But you know, the nomadic aesthetic has been a part of, you know, my work philosophy for, it will be 30 years on Valentine's Day. So it's a very long time to be the piercer in one place. And it just keeps me reconnected, you know. It's I wore my t-shirt like you told me to, and I know where I work if I look down at my hand, you know. And it's you know, this little dude on my shirt, he's a little Aboriginal guy with a dick piercing and stretched earlobes, you know. And a drawing that I made a very long time ago. And you know, I think it just comes back to looking forward, but also looking back, and keeping the cultural precedent in the forefront of my mind, so that I can, you know, honor what I'm doing. And the reason that we're all piercers is because there were tribal elders piercing their babies and piercing their kids' ears with big plugs when they went on their first lion hunt or got circumcised at age 12 in Africa. You know, these are rituals that are not practiced very much because of Western influence, and we're, you know, Western morality thinks it's fine to go into other countries and modernize people and cut down their forests and put them in Western clothes, and that's just wrong. These are the cultures that have survived the test of time much longer than modern culture has a very short period of successful history, and that's in very big quotes. There's, you know, the world is beleaguered by wars and infighting and politics, and nobody's connected to ancient things anymore.
Yeah, a lot of things changed. Luca, do you have any short questions? Short questions.
Sì, sì, mi volevo ricollegare a tutto quello che è stato detto, spero di aver capito bene, insomma, sicuramente qualcosa mi è sfuggita. Allora, sicuramente abbiamo parlato appunto del custom, dell'artigianato, no? Se non sbaglio. Dimmi.
No, nel senso,
No,
adesso abbiamo parlato
no, prima
dell'aspetto...
intendevo.
Ah, ok.
Prima, non adesso. E poi quindi anche il rapporto con le varie culture del piercing, anche appunto quelle tribali, no? Volevo chiedergli, siccome sia dal punto di vista estetico, anche nell'elaborazione della gioielleria e anche dal punto di vista culturale, le culture tribali sono state fondamentali per la crescita del nostro mondo, appunto quello del body piercing.
Sì.
E quindi le culture tribali sono qualcosa a cui noi dobbiamo molto. Secondo lui, nel nostro piccolo, cosa possiamo fare, visto che è in atto un genocidio che continua da secoli rispetto alle culture tribali e ancora continua ora? Pensa agli Yanomami nella foresta amazzonica, penso agli Adivasi in India, ma anche i nativi americani del Nord America che ancora subiscono forti repressioni, insomma. Non a caso nella amministrazione precedente sono stati tolte terre ai nativi americani, no? E non credo che sia migliorata con questa situazione di queste popolazioni. Volevo chiedere, noi nel nostro piccolo, come piercer, anche semplicemente a livello culturale, come trasmissione di sapere, cosa possiamo fare per aiutare queste lotte di liberazione di queste popolazioni, a cui in realtà dobbiamo molto della nostra cultura?
No, a questo punto direi per preservare, cioè, queste
Esatto.
lotte di liberazione è un discorso molto filosofico, Luca. Io cercherò di comprimerlo perché... Ok,
Certo.
Blake, Luca says that, you know, as you also said before, that, you know, tribal, ancient and modern, actually ancient tribal culture were, you know, very influence, or they influence a lot, you know, our industry, the body piercing culture itself. And he says nowadays that, you know, the modern and developed culture try to you know, to lower all these tribals and all these cultures. He asked, what do you think we can do in our, of course, everyone in his own small reality, no? If there is something that we can do to save and help to preserve the ancient culture, and what we should do to do it.
That's a good question, Luca. You know, I can just think about what I tried to do, you know, from when Nomad opened. You know, we used to have flyers for Greenpeace and the Rainforest Relief Foundation. And in my first year of business, I donated a couple $1,000 to some good nonprofit organizations, to, you know, people that have the let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? The resources to, you know, this was before internet, to spread awareness about, you know, deforestation, for example. You know, that you have corporations like McDonald's cutting down rainforests in Borneo, and for people to, you know, give some extra money to the organizations that still fight for the environment and that try to, you know, I remember when Sting, the rock star from the Police, he donated several $1 million to the Yanomamo Fund in Brazil, and you know, helped these people buy back their indigenous land that the government was, you know, basically stealing from them. And when you have people that are, you know, famous and have money that can stir about some social change, that's a really effective way to help people become more aware, I think nobody gives a shit anymore is the problem that I see. And I don't involve myself too much with, it stresses me out to look at the world. So, you know, I live on a farm with my wife and my daughter, and it just keeps me connected. It's something that I think all people should do to some degree, because I think we're forgetting that we're all on this ball of the earth together. And, you know, when we destroy the planet, there's going to be nothing left. And not to sound apocalyptic, but we really got to get our shit together as humanity really quickly, so our children have a world to inherit. And that means stewardship for Mother Earth. And, you know, recycle your beer bottles, you know, do something, anything that helps to reduce your carbon footprint. Question.
I have a question for you. Me, Luke, and other people, we you know, founded, and we actually are running, you know, the Italian Association of Professional Piercer. Do you think that we, as an association, we should take part of it? I mean, we should, you know, stand up and do something for spread communication and make, as you said, you know, our own brochures about, you know, the indigenous culture preservations and things like this. Since we are, you know, making money out from the work that you know, they invented, and we just steal, or in a good way, of course, and we do in our shop. I mean, is it correct for you that a professional association stand up and do something for this, and not just the single person? Also, of course, even the single is effective, but in my own opinion, if we get close together and we do something together, at least to start to communicate something with, first of all, in our studios, and also for our customer, in my own opinion, probably will be even more handy. What do you think?
Agreed. I think, you know, I have no awareness of what's going on in Europe as far as professional piercing organizations go, but I know that you work very hard in that regard. And I think if you can, you know, through the Italian Piercing Association, I think if you can bring some awareness to other body piercers, that's where it starts, because these are the people that are going out and, you know, earning their money, performing something that's been done cross-culturally since Neolithic prehistory. So I think it starts with, you know, the individual. It starts with what's right here, and if you can represent that even spiritually in your work, that's what really makes a difference. When you have a platform, you know, when I went to Mexico in 2016, I gave a big lecture to the LBP, and I found that Latino piercers were much more open to the things that I believe in, because these piercers are living in the land of the Aztec and the Maya, and that's their cultural precedent. That they still pierce their babies, you know, and you know, American piercers would write me hate mail for mutilating children, you know. Fuck you, people. And this is what we have to keep in mind, is the ignorance. Especially American piercers are the worst, and that's why I don't associate anymore. I found that European piercers, Beto, I hope you're watching, thank you for the show last year. You know, people that have traveled themselves, you know, Beto's a nomad, you know, somebody that you've worked with. And when I went to Mexico, you know, that would have got me, you know, tomatoes and rotten eggs in America, and the Latino piercers understand it. And it resonated as the culture. But you're talking to the concept about preaching to deaf ears, which is what I found American piercers to be, you know, following whatever the APP dictates. And I don't believe in corporate piercing. You know, I think that's just bullshit. And I think when you have an opportunity in Europe, I think is more progressive and more ancient-minded, especially an Italian piercer who can look no further than Otzi for his own cultural validation. And, you know, Bruno can say, this is our people, and we should be aware. We should support things that are engendering cultural awareness and preserve those ideologies while there is something left to preserve. And in fact, since I was a little boy, there's many cultures that don't exist in that capacity anymore. They've been completely westernized and assimilated.
Yeah. Thank you for this. We will keep this as a treasure, and we will talk about this in the next our board members meeting. Luca is probably it's about to develop something about general communication like a fanzine, and in my own opinion, we all in our group actually. I'm very happy for this because everybody working everybody is in the association, but mainly as board member, because I know these guys better. Is very passionate, and I'm sure that we can develop something that will help to spread information and to make culture on what we do to survive on body piercing. And Blake, we nearly to the end to this conversation. We still have a few minutes. I would like to ask you, please, if you can give me some tip on who we should invite to our next chat. For instance, if you can point out somebody that I should contact and invite to have a conversation with everybody here in our living room.
Okay, I'll think about it and I'll message you. I think anybody that I would recommend is either dead or retired, and it's kind of weird, but the people that I think have the most relevant information to share and impart for younger piercers, I don't know who they are anymore, and I hope that whoever hears this is carrying that spirit in their heart. I don't know who to invite.
Okay. Okay, I will. I mean, we will have time to talk about this maybe in private. Another question, just a quick tip to the younger piercer that are watching this chat, and for the one who will watch this chat later on, please a tip for these guys.
I think you have to learn with a legitimate apprenticeship. And when people have schools and, certify someone to be a piercer or a tattooist, I think it's really just a money-making venture. I don't know of a lot of young piercers anymore who would seek out somebody older to study under, because I don't think that value system exists anymore. But I think the only way to learn any trade, tattoo, piercing, plumbing, electrician, is to study with an apprenticeship and to learn from somebody who you intrinsically recognize is really good at their job. You should be able to look at a portfolio and say, God damn, that is really well done. And it's amazing that the internet gets millions of likes on a tongue piercing, but the best shit I ever did that there's only one of on earth has got 50 likes, People don't fucking recognize anything good anymore because we've been dumbed down as a culture. Yeah.
Thank you for the tip. Because the transmission will switch off, I would like to thanks to all the people watching this chat. I would like to thank you, Blake, to be with us tonight, and there will be probably for sure, because we still have a bunch of questions I have to ask you about everything about the scalpel piercing technique you developed, and for the one who is interested and who is able to find this DVD, I suggest to get it. It's amazing. I would like to ask you about the book I don't know if it's still available in the market, but if it's not available anymore, but please, if you can find it, you know, catch it. And I would like to thank you know, Luca to be here with us tonight.
Thank you, Luca.
And besides to be a very close friend of mine, I mean, and we have two different kind of background. And in my own opinion, is always very important to, you know, the interaction and see and hear and be open-minded to hear everybody else opinions, because without communication there will be anything. In my own opinion, communication is the key. Doesn't matter if we don't speak properly the same language. What is important for me is, you know, have the need to communicate. You understand what I mean? In my own opinion, we all live on the same earth, and we all have the same need. It doesn't matter the language we speak. And first of all, be passionate. And second, and respect everybody else. That's my the only thing I would like to say. So once again, thank you so much, Guy. It was very amazing.
Thank you.
This second appointment. In the next chat will be with Enrico from Neuro Maligno. We started our body piercing career together. He's a polyhedric artist. He's a tattoo artist and body piercer, and we will see him in 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Thanks again, Blake. It was mille grazie a te.
Grazie, thank you.
I'm flattered. This is a very precious present you give me and to the full community. Thanks again.
It's an honor. Thank you, man.
Thank you.